The Kenyan coast heritage was part of what the scholars call the Swahili Confederation. And the Swahili cities were all the way along the East African coast, all the way from Somalia in the north, down through Kenya, Tanzania, as far south as Mozambique. Because of a traveler who visited the coast, Ibn Battuta, we now have another name as well, Sawahil or Swahili. Simply means the coast, those people living on the coast. So essentially we are looking at a Bantu civilization. Bantu is a group of language families. Language groups will include things like Swahili, Zulu, Shona, Kikongo. It's one of that group. But the civilization was cosmopolitan. So they would then be joined by people from Arabia, joined by people from Persia, and most importantly, joined by people from India. So what type of civilization are we talking about? That's a British colonial era postcard of the city of Lamu. Lamu is kind of Kenya, but it's off the coast. And if it wasn't for the availability of boat transport, you can't actually get to it. So it's kind of isolated. And a close-up view, you can see multi-story buildings and that kind of thing. To the question, but surely Africans could not have built these cities. And believing this, British archaeologist James Kirkman deceived a generation of scholars. And so the result then is those of us telling the history have to kick against James Kirkman's material. Not only that, he's also done a lot of great damage to the historical memory of Kenyans because they don't realize that his stuff is nonsense. But the nonsense had a major, major impact. And the result was Kirkman misled historians into the error that East African culture was partly, if not entirely, Arab or Persian. And if you speak to people from Kenya, speaking to my guides, taking me around the ruins, nearly all of them believe that. And then what I would challenge, but all the archaeologies only dug up African skeletons. Yeah, but they were the workmen. Well, so that means they built it. Yeah, but they built it under somebody else's control. Where's the somebody else's control skeletons? Do you see? And this is because of James Kirkman. Now, the other piece of evidence that people use is the Swahili language today does indeed have a number of Arabic words mixed up in it, and quite a lot of Arabic words. And this was at one time argued that this demonstrates an important Arab element in the formation of Swahili culture. And ordinarily, linguistics is a powerful tool, and we could use linguistics in this way. However, Dr. John Sutton of the British Institute of East Africa, this is what he says. What is less well understood, however, is that the bulk of these borrowings are not ancient in Swahili, but belong to the last 200 years or so, the period of the new Arabs and the Zanzibari state. So the history and the heritage we're talking about is not the last 200 years. We're talking the periods before that, before the Arab borrowings made their way into Swahili. Now, in the 18th century, well after the great East African culture had declined, Arab sultans did in fact control East Africa. They controlled it from Zanzibar. It became a slave trading zone, etc., etc., etc. But the golden age is well before that.